for a Deer's Pikachu, and then progressed towards the weather tower. Inside, Team Aqua got a Thunderstone for a Deer's Pikachu. Marched on to another chance to breathe. We took the HM Surf, got a Thunderstone for a Deer's Pikachu, and then progressed towards the weather tower. Inside, Team Aqua bombards you with the exact same shit you've seen before, and ultimately fails to overpower the strongest Mudkip in existence. You would think that the weather employees would be grateful for you saving their lives, and that's the problem. They are. Too grateful, if you ask me. They offer to give you a reward for your troubles while stripping you of an option to decline. With that being said, we retrieve our second Pokemon of the playthrough, and just like that, the run is dead. I mean, we never caught a Pokemon, I suppose. It's not like I used a Pokeball for it. I suppose that I could just hide him in the box like a red-headed stepchild and hope he never sees the light of day. So with an additional skeleton in our closet, Steven Stone shows us another fun piece of useless information before we go into the 6th gym. I'll be honest and say that these puzzles for Populars took me a bit longer than I'd like to admit, but I eventually found my way through. I debated on teaching my Mudkip Rock Tomb for this gym alone, but I trusted my precious child to eliminate. Oh my god, they're all dead. Remember when I talked about Team Aqua earlier? Yeah, just imagine that again, but this time with ghosts. Then imagine that again, but with Team Magma, and now rocks are around. The twist here is you have to fight the leader of Team Magma, and during this fight, I kind of ran out of PP, so I thought using Dig against his camera would be a fine answer, but I was wrong.
Dude.
We got him on the run back though, so let's just focus
download
on
this
okay?
Discord. Just download Discord, dude.
And since my Mudkip could not learn fly, no matter how many times I asked or how hard he tried, so we had to walk across the country again. This is just a pointless objective that activates the next event in Lily Cove, which is a painful process if you don't have the ability to fast travel. And since we were in Slateport, I thought we would surf over to the abandoned ship and pick up TM13 Ice Beam, and we're just gonna put that in the bag until later. While returning to Slateport, I ran into a random encounter. Upon slaying another tentacle, somebody asked me to fix the stream layout. As I was attempting to please a loyal viewer, I realized that I made a grave error. It's just a lighting error. It's a white balance thing. It's like I can just slide one thing on here and make it work. Like, wait, that's saturation. That's wrong. Wait. Yeah, so I turned the game off and went back to my last save, groaned loudly, and did it all over again. Backtracking through time was as painful as it sounds, and then I picked up Toxic along the way, defeated Team Aqua again while picking up a Master Ball that is essentially worthless, and then we found our way back to Mosty. This gym served as a huge roadblock in our path because this gym clearly incentivizes double battles with its design and theme and gym leaders being Kate and Liza. Or Lisa, or Lisa, who cares? As soon as you make it to the gym leader room, they turn you away if you only have one Pokemon. To battle them, I have to catch another Pokemon, which would absolutely disqualify me from this challenge. But what if we had a certain albino Metamorphosis love child to bring back out of hiding? Surely this doesn't count as catching a Pokemon, and it's not like its inclusion really matters since he's just gonna dodge his Xatu's Psychic. From this point on, Mudkip easily won the 2v1 by spamming Surf the entire battle, and upon leaving the gym, I went out to go do what I felt was right and release Castform into the wild. But they refused. Back in the box he went, and we went to assist Mr. Stone in a double battle. He was kind enough to allow me to choose any Pokemon I wanted, so I chose my Mudkip and we washed the floor with these lackeys. With our journey soon coming to a close, Steven finally did something of value and allowed me to teach my Mudkip a brand new HM, Dive. With this being our 4th one, Mudkip looks no different than an HM Zigzagoon slave at this point, and nevertheless, we continued our journey to the 8th gym. But before I did that, I was surfing and ran into a shiny Tentacool, laughed hysterically, and killed it in front of everybody. But I still forgot we had to go to the Aqua hideout, so yeah, we did that too. Then returning to Pseudopolis. They play a nice little cutscene while Wallace plays 20 questions about Rayquaza, interrogating me about their location as if a 10-year-old with a Mudkip had even heard of whatever that thing is. For whatever plot convenience reason, we trekked up to meet Slifer the Sky Dragon and he instant transmission to somewhere random, I think. Since I didn't want to attempt to imitate it by walking painfully slow, I just battled in the Sky Tower until my little Mudkip couldn't handle it anymore. Since whiting out just sends you to the last Pokemon Center you went to, it activated the next cutscene immediately. Rayquaza interrupts this fight that looks like a stare down to tell Groudon that he got insanely counterpicked. I mean, he has this tiny piece of land and Kyogre has this ocean on their side. He then threw in the white flag, which caused Kyogre to dive back into the ocean, and I don't really know where Groudon went, honestly. Anyways, after seeing all 3 of those monsters, this allows our protagonist to enter the final gym and succeed in these puzzles that I definitely definitely remember being much harder as a kid. One doesn't really serve as too much of a challenge for the beast that was created before your very eyes, but I thought it would be a very funny flex to throw a master ball at his truly beloved. He didn't appreciate the joke very much, and to be fair, I get it, it's not really that funny. So with all 8 gym badges in hand, our journey now directs us at Evergrande City, which is honestly just one building. And nice. But first, we have to go to the move deleter and ditch dive and learn waterfall. Luckily, only 4 of the 5 required HMs are necessary to get through Victory Road, and if that wasn't true, the run would have just ended right here. Upon entering Victory Road, we are greeted with Wallace trying to strike a pose, and we can just fast forward through all this. He never really served as much of a challenge for the superior species of Pokemon. Victory Road is a dark and scary labyrinth, and I wasn't really about to rely on muscle memory nor flash, so I just looked up a guide counting step by step. Nothing really exciting happens here, so we can just fast forward to the Elite Four. I stocked up on last minute supplies and sold my revives since we can't possibly use those. I called this a practice run since the moveset I was going on was full of low PP HMs, with one of them being Rock Smash, which is a hilariously awful move. This definitely sounded much harder on paper, but Mudkip kind of tore through all of the first few trainers. We got to Drake with only water moves that are not very effective, Rock Smash is just not, and we didn't have any ice moves. Things seemed kind of hopeless. I decided to use an Ether on Strength, and that turned out to be the saving grace here somehow. Upon beating the Elite Four, we had one remaining challenge in our way. This Mudkip has been through so much. We all have in this adventure. And with our journey finally coming to... Okay, we got Toxic stalled by Wallace's Melodic and lost. Okay, whatever. At this point, I just decided that our moveset was not going to cut it. One of our moves did not even get used in the Elite Four, and the rest didn't cover what we needed it to. With Toxic and Ice Beam still in my bag, I wanted to equip them to Mudkip, but how? We made our way back through Victory Road, picking up a much-needed TP up on the way, and arrived at the move deleter's house. After removing half of their HMs and giving Mudkip as close to a real moveset as I possibly could, we set out to see and dive. You know, since this would warp our trainer back to the Elite Four, and the HMs required to get through Victory Road were no longer applicable, this time was going to be different. Each move was strategically picked for each trainer. A lot of Pokemon were die to surf alone given stat bonus, but we also had strength to cover the matchups with weak defense or who were strong to water. With everything in place, Mudkip was unchained, storming through trainer after trainer. Okay, and then Glalie just used self-destruct. This time for sure, after arriving at Phoebe's battle, I realized the last battle her Dusclops exerts pressure, which is bad for my limited move pool. I also noticed that he opened with Protect and would keep spamming it until one connected. Being that he could use his move 10 times, I decided that I would just buff Mudkip up as much as possible, and then on the 11th turn, the beefiest Mudkip you've ever seen slaughtered all of the ghosts. I used a similar strategy for the next trainer since Mudkip lived in constant fear of being exploded on by a living snowball. When it came to Drake, the difficulty of the last run went away since Ice Beam was the perfect tool to destroy everything he loves, which finally brought us back to Wallace. I took my time and beefed up against his Wailord, which I feel like if that Pokemon ever gets Dynamax, stadiums are going to collapse. With Ludicolo knowing Giga Drain, this could serve as a huge problem. Being that I had to heal each time he used it, I just waited until he used the move 5 times and then Ice Beamed him down. Wallace's Tentacruel is by far the least threatening Pokemon he has, so this was just time to heal, buff up, file on my checkbook, and mentally prepare myself for what was coming next. Melodic came out using Toxic, educating me that I've never said most of these Pokemon names out loud, and little did they know, I could be Toxic too. This fight went on for multiple minutes, but Mudkip eventually found himself a victory somehow. Surprisingly, this wasn't the end, but after using Ice Beam, Wish Catch was frozen, and at this point it was just heart of the cards from there. With Wallace attempting to hold the throne and not lose to a 10-year-old, he threw out Gyarados, but you already know how that went. So just like that, Mudkip single-handedly became the champion of Hoenn's Elite Four. It was a long journey, but his very fitting lonely nature led him to victory. A lot of people said that a Mudkip couldn't accomplish such a daunting task, but let this be a lesson to you. No matter how large the obstacle may be, if you believe in yourself, you can accomplish anything if you have a drugged-up fish with legs by your side. One thing that I thought was funny during the credits is that they really want to walk you down memory lane by showing you all the Pokemon you caught, and, So thanks for watching. This was definitely one of the more fun videos to make. It takes a bit longer to create than typical gameplay videos, but I'm down to make more if you guys want them, so let me know in the comments of any other arbitrary challenge you can think of, and be sure to follow Nova for doing all the animations, and be sure to like and subscribe while you're here. And I don't know if you know this about me, but I've always been bad at making outros, especially when reading from a script, so...
Even though Mega Kick is a strong move, it's far too unreliable to keep around, especially with the game's trainers starting to get a lot stronger and have more team members. Anyways, after going through the Rocket hideout, I meet and battle Giovanni for the first time. His first two Pokemon are Rock type, which is one of the reasons I got Shadow Ball before coming here. Rock types have good physical defense, but they're not able to resist the Ghost type. Overall, his team doesn't rely on any strategies that inflict status conditions, so it's just a matter of Slack Off being able to take some hits. After I finish this, I return to the Pokemon Tower to attempt the rival battle game. Now that I'm a higher level, I stand a better chance, but his Pokemon can still be pretty disruptive with their moves, so things could easily still go badly. However, I managed to win. It should go without saying that the rest of the tower is incredibly easy. Because I have a Ghost type move, I can easily one-shot every single Pokemon that gets in the way here. So getting to Mr. Fuji at the top doesn't take long. With that out of the way, I finally head to the fourth gym to battle Erica. I go ahead and give Slack Off the citrus berry I picked up, as this is probably the last battle where it'll be of any use. However, that ends up being unnecessary because I get lucky with all of her status moves missing. Now what I'm about to do next is probably something you wouldn't expect for this playthrough. Before I can move on, I need to stop and capture at least 30 different kinds of Pokemon. Although this is a bit tedious, one of Professor Oak's aides will give me the item finder once I do. The reason I want the item finder is for the Snorlax that is blocking the road ahead. After it's defeated by using the item finder on the exact tile that it was located, I will now be able to pick up any hidden leftovers. Ordinarily, you don't need the item finder to collect hidden items. You can just pick them up if you know where they are. But for whatever reason, there are a select few items in the game that require this method to pick them up. You really couldn't tell you why this is the case. But regardless of all that, I now have the leftovers, which is a hold item that restores HP every turn. As you might have guessed, this is an incredibly important item for Slack Off, and it's pretty much going to be required for the rest of the playthrough. Next I head to Fuchsia City, where the next gym battle awaits. With no game-breaking glitches occurring this time, I go into the fight with Koga more than prepared. His Pokemon will always try to poison me, so a single-use berry won't help too much. His Muck is also especially annoying because of how it likes to use Minimize. I get to his final Pokemon, but I'm unable to beat him. For now, I go to the Sylph Building in Saffron City. I need to eventually complete this area anyway, so I also use it as an opportunity to train for Koga. Several battles against Rocket Grunts later, I arrive at the next rival battle. It's here where his team starts to get especially dangerous, and the leftovers are pretty much mandatory to stand a chance. However, another major problem is that his Pidgeot, who still comes out first, can now use Feather Dance, which lowers Slack Off's attack by 2 stages. I can still hurt it with Rock Slide, but then his Gyarados comes in and lowers Slack Off's attack by another stage with Intimidate. Despite this, I'm able to knock it out with rocks, but once he sends in his Charizard, my Sloth is burned away before I can even get a chance to hit it. So as is usually the case with these videos, I've reached the point where despite being an absurdly high level, I need to go and grind to an even higher one. I get Slack Off's level into the 70s before attempting Koga again. This time I easily get through most of his team, and only his Weezing is able to put up a fight. I take it down and claim the 5th badge. My rival's team would still be a threat to me at this point, so I grind Slack Off all the way to level 80 before trying again. This time I'm able to outspeed his Pidgeot, taking it out with Rock Slide before I can use Feather Dance. There is no way to stop Intimidate though, so that's what the extra levels are mostly for. Rock Slide cuts through Gyarados and Charizard. His Execute manages to paralyze me, but it's nothing too troublesome. The final Pokemon he sends out, Alakazam, is another one of the main reasons I got Shadow Ball. Alakazam is an incredibly strong Psychic type, but its physical defense is its weak point. With Shadow Ball, I can cut through him with a super effective physical move. I managed to beat my rival this time, and although my health may still be green, that's only because of the leftovers. If it wasn't for them, I guarantee you that Slack Off wouldn't have been able to survive. Right after this battle, I have the second encounter with Giovanni. Surprisingly, it's not as easy as you'd think it would be after all that grinding. I might be able to take down most of his Pokemon with one hit, but it's very likely that I'll get poisoned early on. Even with the leftovers and being level 80, I can just barely survive this. With Team Rocket chased out of Saffron, I can finally go to this city's gym. Slack Off is powerful enough to breeze through Sabrina's team. This one ends up being really easy as I'm able to deal super effective damage to all of her Pokemon. With another badge in hand, I head to Cinnabar Island to battle the next leader. Blaine is a bit of a problematic opponent. Ordinarily, in any casual playthrough, you just destroy him with pretty much any water type you can get your hands on. But in the case of this Slack-Off playthrough, I have to deal with 2 of his Pokemon having Intimidate, and spamming what is one of the strongest fire moves in the game. Not only that, but if I happen to get burned, then Slack-Off's physical attack power will take an even more severe cut. Even during an attempt where Fire Blast missed me a handful of times, I still lost to his last Pokemon. But coming back after a bit more training, I'm able to make it through this time. At this point in the game, Covet is no longer useful. I mainly just kept it around because its high amount of PP made it useful for grinding. But at this point, I'm going to be taking on the strongest battles in the game, one after another, so I finally replace it with the move Attract, before heading to the final gym leader. For the last battle against Giovanni, he has 5 Pokemon, along with lots of Hyper Potions. To keep my Sloth alive, I use Attract on some of the male Pokemon in order to stall for Leftovers recovery. It's also worth noting that here in the remakes he has 2 Rhyhorn, where in the original games his final Pokemon was a Rhydon instead. His Pokemon also don't spam the one-hit KO move Fissure either, so this battle is a lot more manageable for someone using only a single Pokemon. With only the power of a Sloth, I've earned all 8 badges, but before I can head to the Pokemon League, I have another encounter with my rival to take care of. This fight at first goes really well. I still outspeed his Pidgeot, and now he saves his Gyarados for much later in the fight. However, his Execute still paralyzes me, which ends up making me unable to land the single Rock Slide I need against his Charizard. It takes another try, but this time I'm able to hit it and win. Now you all know what happens next. Preparation for Elite 4, I go and get Slack
You're playing Brawlhalla?
next level. With this being as strong as she can possibly be, this is where the real challenge begins.
Yeah, I didn't join because